You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with your hosts, Mike and John.
Your week, Ben?
Oh, it's been good. Yeah, we just recorded the first 2 episodes of my my game for Instagram. So
yeah, so they got the green light.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, right now we're a little cramped for stuff after Wings of Connie, so we'll see. It's probably gonna be the one I made though, the pale blue dot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which is the one with Andrew?
Andrew was in Wings of Connie. He was in like one session for that.
Oh, he was. Okay, I haven't gotten that far then. Okay.
That's a couple. That's like,
nice.
Was it 15 and 16, I think he was in?
Nice. I'm a little behind on that one, but working my way through it, a little bit slow.
Yeah, no worries.
I am excited for Fallout, which I think just premiered on Prime.
Oh, really?
The new TV show.
Yeah.
I think they released every episode.
Oh, did
I
they?
have to double check that, but
They dropped it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. I never. It's the same thing with JRPGs. Fallout's another one that I never really played. I had Fallout 4 or 3. Which one was in DC? Was that 4? Or was that 3?
3. No. I know 4 was in your neck of the woods.
In Ryan Boston way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I played a little bit of it, but it didn't really meld with me. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the JRPGs and Fallout games and kind of the longer form RPGs in general. My ADHD just can't handle it, and I can't stay interested.
Well, it's not for everyone. I will admit it's a slower paced game than I would normally play, but it definitely keeps my attention. I don't know if it's because my buddy Joe's into it and we swap stories or what, but yeah, it is a slower Bethesda RPG for sure.
Yeah,
a lot more methodical.
I'm wondering because there's a little camp to it, right? There's like a little bit of levity.
Yeah, it's like a futuristic 1950s style, very retro future.
Curious how the TV show is gonna portray. Is it gonna be extra campy or is it gonna be extra dark? Curious.
I've heard it's funny.
Yeah.
It's not like a comedy or anything, but I've heard it's lighthearted enough to be interesting and entertaining. So I'm gonna be doing that tonight. I'm gonna at least watch one episode and just try to get a feel for it. But yeah, it should be hopefully a good time.
Yeah, I
think it already got approved for a second season.
Oh, really?
I think.
Wow. Well, yeah.
Which is unusual.
Yes, I mean, depends on the IP and what's behind it. Although Fallout is one of those games that seemed pretty popular, and I guess it is. It's just it's kind of a niche popular game, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
One of the shows that we've been watching that I think everyone should watch and have their mind blown about what good quiet storytelling can be is Scavenger's Reign on HBO Max. It's an anime. I guess anime. It's kind of early mid 90s kind of animation style, but more smooth or smoother, more modern take on it. And it's just about this.
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, it's hard to describe, but it's a show about a shipwreck, a spaceship that falls or that wrecks in orbit of this planet, and it's it highlights the story of a couple of the survivors as they make their way through this bizarre alien world that is the most alien fauna and flora that I've ever seen in any show ever. It's just amazing.
Wow.
It's a really good show.
And what's it called again?
Scavenger's Reign.
Scavenger's Reign.
Yep.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's really good.
It sounds interesting. Awesome. Well, today, John, we are here to discuss Final Fantasy VI for Super Nintendo. Oh man.
Oh boy. Yeah.
This
From what I
unfairly
yeah.
I'll preface this is going to be an unfair review because this is my favorite game of all time.
Uh-huh.
This is the one, and yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No,
you.
it's
Go
fine.
ahead.
It's from what I could see, at least from just kind of the walkthroughs and some of the reviews I was seeing, it seems like the Final Fantasy VII is like one of those like iconic. Everyone knows Final Fantasy VII, but I feel like Final Fantasy VI is probably the most like game changing from the series, like
Absolutely,
because it seemed like the earlier versions of Final Fantasy on the SNES were kind of meh, and this one was like leaps and it brought it into the industrial era. It was like leaps and bounds with storytelling and all that, and graphics and all that stuff. So yeah, it seemed pretty interesting.
They did go all out, and I'll touch on that a little bit, but yeah, they really. It felt like they had something to prove with this one, so it was a joy to watch and play and listen to. I mean, I was 9 when this game came out, so let's go back a little bit. I'm going to take you on a little journey here. April 2nd.
Oh, geez.
It came out. It came out April 2nd in 94, so it just turned 30 years old, and. As I mentioned the last time with Jesse, I got my start in RPGs with Dragon Warrior for the NES, and then it really became a passion of mine with Final Fantasy IV for Super Nintendo. And, you know, Squaresoft at that time had brought me a set of characters with individual stories and motivations that I hadn't really experienced in gaming before. So when Final Fantasy III was announced, I was like, ready for it. I was primed. I was excited to see where this would take it. I remember being on vacation. My family went to the Mall of America. I don't even know why. It was like a weekend getaway. Yeah, it was interesting.
Something to do.
And it was around the time of release. It was shortly before it came out. We were waiting for someone to do something. And we were all just kind of standing there in the walkway or whatever. And I turn around to find a glass wall in front of me, maybe 3 feet away. And facing out into the mall walkway was a TV from the other side of the glass. And I see this brief series of scrolling images with text telling the story of an ancient war. And it eventually gets to a very cinematic, intense scene of these 3 dark mechs, like suits of armor, walking away from the camera during a snowstorm. Very detailed sprite work for the time. It has them trudging through the snow along rocky cliffs as the credits to the game are fading in and out in really elegant kind of like, you know, we're going to list everyone before the game even starts.
Classic Japanese like filmmaking. They put all the credits ahead of the movie.
Yep. And then when the video finished, it faded out, and eventually I see Final Fantasy III emblazoned on the screen, and the letters were hollow. They had like these wispy flames in the letters to kind of make the words come through. I lost my mind, John. I got to tell you, that moment in my life is just etched into my brain.
Yeah.
Because that was my first introduction to this game. It was the first time I had any clue it was even coming. And having no real history with Final Fantasy outside of Final Fantasy IV, I had assumed it would be a direct sequel. Yeah. But I was eventually surprised to find out that it was completely new story, new characters, and that's how they did things. So
was 4 and 5, were they sequel, or was 5 a sequel to 4?
Nope.
No.
They are all separate, pretty much. So they do delve into like direct sequels later on. They have Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2. They have 13. 13, I think they came out with 2 extra 13s after that.
No, really?
They have spin-offs of like Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus. But yeah, as for the first 7 or 8 games, actually I'll say 9, they didn't really dive into sequels or prequels or anything. It was every story was its own standalone thing. So
you gotta commend that in any genre, taking something that is winning for you, getting you money, and at that point, lots and lots of money, and not just rehashing, doing member berries, like member of this character, all that kind of crap,
right?
And wiping the slate clean and rebuilding the game. Maybe they're not the mechanics, and maybe some of the magic and all that is similar, but the story, just wiping the story slate clean and rebuilding from the ground up, must have been an incredible studio to work in, to be able to just be that creative all the time, constantly.
Yeah, they really came out with some exceedingly interesting forms of gameplay for RPGs at the time. And Final Fantasy IV really dove into, okay, these are not just 4 heroes. These are people with backgrounds, people with motivations. Previous to that, they had individual characters, obviously, but for example, Final Fantasy I is just, you're the 4 heroes of light.
Yeah.
And you can choose what class they are, but there's really no character to them. They are just, it's prophesized that 4 heroes of light will come save the day.
Yeah.
When something's going down. And then make it to Final Fantasy IV, where you've got this cast of characters that is constantly coming in and out of your party as part of this world. They have their own stories. They're not quite as deep as, it could be, but they were interesting, and they were just, the only main character was Cecil.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the main focus of the story, and all these people around him would come in and leave the party whenever throughout the story, and they just felt really fleshed out for the time. And I think that was a step in the right direction for the series. It gave each character a profession, essentially. Each character could do something specific that usually, I would say, other games had. They weren't fleshed out.
Yeah.
This felt a little bit more fleshed out. And then Final Fantasy V comes along, which didn't release in America until, I want to say, officially the PlayStation 1. So that's why on Super Nintendo, 4 is 2 and 6 is 3.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So 5 came out with the job system, where you could have each character pick a job and you could learn it. You could customize your party in a super specific way, or you could really focus on certain jobs for certain characters. It was really innovative for the time. And then 6 comes along and really opens it up even further. Each character has a profession, kind of like in 4. They're each good at something.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you've got this magic system that really lets you customize who knows what spell, or all of them if you choose. You can really dictate how powerful you want to become throughout your journey. And it just really opened a lot of doors. So
yeah, that's amazing
stuff
that they were able to continually innovate, and then have this explosion of characters and classes, and kind of define the role-playing genre a little bit more about, like, what does it mean to have a character? Do you really want them to be such a blank slate that you kind of can make them whatever you want, or do you want these NPCs or these party members or whatever they are to come in with a bit of baggage, as it were, a bit of like, this is kind of the archetype that they are, but you can still mess around, customize, or whatever you want to do, and then to do it at such a grand scale for the time was pretty insane.
Yeah. And the other big innovation I would say that 4 brought to the table, I know this isn't about 4, but as you're talking about, each game is basically you're getting creative and a completely new story is being told. They had to innovate the battle system to keep it interesting. And 4 introduced the active time battle.
Right.
So this is the first time that enemies could attack you while you're making decisions.
Right.
So that ups the tension, that ups the level of skill that you need. You need to be able to react to what's happening on screen faster than you were previously able to because everything was turn-based.
Yeah.
So it's still turn-based, but the enemies won't wait for you.
Right.
So that's kind of cool.
You got to make
Adds a
decisions.
level of difficulty.
Yeah, it's nice to put the player under some pressure when they have to make a decision because you can
Mhm.
feel like this happens a lot where in some games for me I get a lot of option paralysis where you go
Yes.
through, you can try to optimize everything, go through everything bit by bit, and it just slows the game down and makes the game feel slower, not because the game itself is slow, it's because mentally you're trying to solve the game and it just
Mhm.
it takes longer. Whereas if you put the player under some pressure, it forces them to make maybe suboptimal decisions, but next time they'll remember that, oh yeah, I need to cast a spell first before I attack or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Keeping the player on their toes is genuinely a good thing when it comes to these kinds of RPGs, simply because, yeah, you can just get lost doing other things or not acting at all and falling asleep sometimes, which I think I have done with Final Fantasy IV. You just play it so late in the night. You wake up and the fight's still going. No.
Well, I guess.
Oh, I hit pause. No, but back to 6. Unfortunately for me, I was not able to own my own copy until about 4 years later. So I had to live vicariously through friends.
Yeah.
And my friend Mike had one that I would routinely spend the night at his house or him at mine, and we would play.
Yeah.
It was my first real exposure to the game through this. And there was one time he had spent the night at my house one weekend and showed me a particular area in which he was stuck. And anyone who knows the game knows the Fanatics Tower is probably one of the most unique and difficult dungeons in the second half of the game if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So because I was so desperate to simply play the game on my own, because he would just show me bits and pieces of it, he was packing his things to leave my house one morning, and I kind of squirreled it away without him noticing because I just wanted to play it. I just wanted to play it unhindered, and it was completely safe. I wasn't going to let anything happen to this game, so I just needed to play it. So he leaves. He doesn't realize he's left it at my house. Before I started my own save file, I took a stab at the Fanatics Tower, and really, it took me like 2 attempts, but I managed to beat it. And I'm just going to say using my genius for the game. Yeah. I'm not trying to oversell it, but this is probably what really spoke to me about the game. My initial experience with the game was beating something the owner of the game couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
Beating something that he had countless hours in and preparation for, and he didn't figure it out, but I was able to do it in an afternoon or something. Yeah. And it just really spoke to me on that level. So
that's cool.
It was a cool moment for me. And have you ever been that excited for a game or a board game or anything
like to come out
like this? Yeah.
That's a good question.
I feel like a weirdo. I'm not even done with the story, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I have been, there are definitely games where I've been looking forward to it a lot. Like, trying to think.
Blood. I know you had expressed. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Blood in the Clock Tower is a board game that I play a lot. I actually, so I wanted to play it so badly that they had like really early alpha pre-release like rules that you could get, and you could, they had all the characters, like the pre-release characters for, it's like a social deduction game, like Werewolf. And I had ended up building my own set to play because I was just wanted to play it with friends. Nice. Yeah, I guess that's one that I was pretty excited to play. Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah,
and I took a similar route because I ended up in my.
You had a sitcom, a sitcom episode where the guy leaves his or the lady leaves her necklace at the guy's apartment. Wants to come back.
Yes. No, I actually started developing. I was writing my own strategy guide for this game, but it got pretty deep, and my buddy Ethan can attest to this. He saw it. It was never finished, but he saw it. He was aware of it. So from that moment, after I had given the game back to my friend or whatever, I would rent the same copy several times from our local video store over and over, just so no one could play it and no one could delete my save file or mess with it. Yeah. So that's how I beat the game the first time.
Well, that's dedication. How much does that cost you? Way more than the game cost the game, I'm sure.
Well, let's see. It was probably $3 a pop for 3 days, 2 days, maybe. Yeah, it was not cheap, I'm sure. But the draw of this game for me was immeasurable. I had really experienced nothing like it by the end. Everything was just polished, I want to say. The characters, the art style, the gameplay, story, and of course the music really just grabbed my attention and held on to it. This game, the only word I can use to accurately summarize it is stunning. The presentation was much more serious in tone than Final Fantasy IV, which even as a kid felt like a draw to me. It felt like this was taking itself more seriously. Not that Final Fantasy IV was a joke or anything, but it definitely was a little bit more lighthearted. Story-wise, the game was deeper, more threatening. Even from that opening sequence I described earlier, set against those scenes of the world and the dark mechs in the snow, it was all set to this amazing song. It was like this was Squaresoft's swan song. It's as if the company was they're being dismantled and these people are putting their best feet forward for one last hurrah.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like, and I can say with confidence that the SNES had never really seen anything quite as dramatic as this game. Personally, I think it proved that video games can be art. That's how I felt at the age of 9, and I still feel that way. So, speaking of art, literally, the art design was much more intricate and beautifully drawn. The larger sprite size of both characters and enemies really gave the presentation a grander feel. Tetsuya Nomura's creature design really popped with the added scale. Some of the most impressive sprites you've ever seen come from this game. And there's one in particular I'll probably get to later that just blew my mind as a kid. But
I looked at, I was watching just some of the replays because I obviously hadn't played really any Final Fantasy game. Yeah, and looking at some of the sprite design, like some of the creatures, they have a pretty innocuous name and they look like insane, like boss level creatures for the sprites. And like this is the writer, and it's like this insane art for this creature.
Yeah.
So they definitely knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and it only gets grander. By the time you reach the final boss, it blows your mind with how big that sprite is. But sonically, it was a massive improvement as well. It's much lengthier than previous titles. Nobuo Uematsu composed the soundtrack with leitmotif themes, and that is to say recurring or remixed themes appearing in several different tracks, or to announce a particular character. There are 14 playable characters in this game, each with their own theme, and that doesn't even include the bad guy, who also got some love almost every time he was on screen. So he got his own theme. Uematsu really wanted to give each character a presence in this game, and I think there are some moments that I would like to discuss a little bit later which demonstrate this, but for tonight's episode, I will be centered on the words heroism, tragedy, and love. Uematsu went to great lengths to intertwine these themes on this record and pull every emotion he could out of us. He uses a symphony of instruments to explain his themes and engage us, and I wanted to focus on the leitmotif element of this record. Now, before we get deep here, let me just read the introduction of the game. It's real quick, so listeners have a sense of the state of the world and what it's about. The ancient war of the Magi, when its flames at last receded, only the charred husk of a world remained. Even the power of magic was lost. In the 1,000 years that followed, iron, gunpowder, and steam engines took the place of magic, and life slowly returned to the barren land. Yet there now stands one who would reawaken the magic of ages past and use its dread power as a means by which to conquer all the world Could anyone truly be foolish enough to repeat that mistake? That is the intro to the game. Pretty much when you hit start.
Yep.
That's the text that scrolls along with that intro
Pretty
video.
good intro. Really gets you motivated.
It's not overly complex.
Yep.
It's not long. It's just enough information. But yeah, I would say heroism is a key element of any RPG or JRPG. You know, you have characters who come to save the day and bring peace, typically motivated by justice or reason and a sense of morality. There are themes on this record that dive into this, but Uematsu skillfully uses character themes to encompass many aspects to many characters in one theme. I would say there's no truer demonstration of this than in Locke's theme. Not only do we first hear it as he is quite literally called to the rescue of Terra, our first female protagonist for the series, but it is a theme that leaps forth in a bright marching melody. The horns announce his heroic nature as he rushes to her side and protects her from the Empire, who has come out to grab her. We can discern easily that he's a good guy with these instruments and that excitable theme. It's bright, punchy, and speaks courage to the listener.
Yeah, it definitely comes out of the gate with probably the most nail on the head. This is a good guy theme, but it does it in a pretty skillful way. There's the fanfare at the beginning starts to die down into a more thoughtful middle section where you get some variation, but yeah, it really does come out the gate with the horns and lets you know that he is definitely a hero.
Yeah, and that midsection to me suggests a darker element to him or his past, and it's really utilized to just bridge the first and last parts together back into that sweeping and marching beat. Really, really good stuff there.
Yeah, a lot of the themes that come up all have some level of that, not fanfare, but you can tell that they're definitely heroes, but some of them maybe have a darker edge to them than others.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I obviously didn't play the game, so I don't have as much of an emotional attachment to any of the songs as you do, Mike.
That's all right.
So I kind of was just going on my own vibes.
Yeah, man.
But I Final Fantasy, one thing I know about it is that there's the fanfare music, the battle music are always kind of similar or play on each other. And then there's the Chocobo theme, which I always love the Chocobo theme. And then the one in this one is pretty tight. It's a techno version of the Chocobo theme that is
good word usage.
Yeah, it's just it's an exceedingly fun little jaunty tune that brings that that good old Chocobo theme to a new level to the club. It's just
absolutely
it's fun. It's a fun track.
And it is aptly named Techno de Chocobo.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun little theme. And this is one thing I'm actually planning on getting to later is the introduction, the infusion of comedy into such a serious story. This is one of those elements where chocobos are a mainstay in Final Fantasy, but they are always a moment of levity. Your feathered friends are there to help whenever they can. And this is one of those themes that really takes the edge off of what you just saw. The first time you hear this song, it's like, wow, okay, we breathe a little bit, kind of enjoy life again. Yeah. It's not so dreary, but yeah, this is an excellent adaptation of the Chocobo theme, which is in every Final Fantasy from, I believe, 2 on. Excellent song.
Yeah.
The next song I wanted to talk about was Save Them, because it does touch on that heroism aspect I was talking about. While much more desperate, this one is led by strings primarily. It uses the signature horns to accent changes and takes the song in more exciting directions. With the usage of the strings, to me it immediately is more evocative of danger and action than straight up heroism. It manages to add a depth and a larger sense of adventure to the song. What I enjoy about this is that attack riposte nature of the two instruments. During the main part of the song, the strings indicate your party, fluttering with their elegant front, and then the tubas get a rejoinder to indicate the big bad empire in their own playful melody. It's just a fun theatrical piece, much like a lot of the rest of the album. I would say this album as a whole has a very play-like atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got that vibe or not, but
yeah.
Like, it's a serious game, but at the same time, there is an element of fourth wall breaking. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it a little bit right now, but it just comes through to me in this song.
Yeah, it has that rushing tone that definitely evokes the title. You want to get out there and save whoever is in trouble. And yeah, it's very theatrical. It's bombastic, and it's loud horns and drums kind of marching along. Yeah, it definitely evokes that kind of theatrical feel to it.
Mm-hmm. One thing Final Fantasy has always been good at, there's a level of humor that they add to their games that really helps keep you engaged. The reason this is significant to me here in this game is that with the leitmotif themes and typical RPG adventure comes a through line of tragedy with this dash of comedy here and there. It very much feels like a drama.
Yeah.
Characters for the first time in this game could emote much better than their previous counterparts. Sure, I mean, it was just a pixel or two different, but with their dialogue now came facial expressions and movements like laughter and finger wagging that really made it feel like they were playing to us, kind of like that play I was telling you about. It's like it's done for our benefit rather than the other characters in the scene. It just helps bring these characters to life. You know, with these movements and facial expressions comes delightful and whimsical music that gave the experience even more life. You can't help but smile when the first few plucks of Kefka's theme come on and his sprite hops along the screen, or he cackles his iconic laughter with a smile on his face. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other tracks I had kind of picked out is kind of plays along with that almost playful attitude to some of these tracks, where it kind of is a wink and a nod. The airship Blackjack.
Yes.
It's kind of a loungy casino vibe, but it also reminds me of a cruise commercial track. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's like a commercial. Like, yeah, join us on
an airship
on beautiful. Yeah. It is very much that. I like it.
It's just like a super playful, jazzy, loungy song that I think is a bit of a wink and a nod to the players a bit.
Yeah, this song has a life to it it fits the fact that you're flying an airship.
Yeah.
There's a wispiness to it that I really enjoy, and tell you what, it's one of the funnest songs to cruise around in because you can just travel for minutes on end listening to this song and just seeing the world that Final Fantasy VI has to present.
Yeah, it's great.
Now, as we have discussed, there is tragedy in this game. I think that through line again is the base of the game. There's so much tragedy in this game. It comes through in several places, and leitmotif themes also work inside that tragedy. It comes through with that intro video song titled Omen, as the low dark strings sustain the powerful ascending opening notes. The text fills the top of the screen, giving that history to the land and foreshadows the looming action the Empire seems doomed to repeat. Another thing that draws me to it is the horn section. It's pretty short, but it really puts the Empire's stamp on what's unfolding. They imply who's behind it. It's in those three notes that the sadness and fear come through. The mysticism of the land and the dangers of greed and power are about to clash in a catastrophic way, and it seems that few people really recognize this.
Yeah, I think the amazing like minor note at the beginning, the da da, it's kind of campy, but it also with the background of how the land and the strife that's about to come, it does also feel a bit ominous, and then it kind of twinkles back into this piano, very light piano, kind of trailing along as like there's this like evil that's happening that's concentrated, but there's also this trickle up. You're trying to find your way through the story, and eventually get to the point where you can fight it. One of the other things I really liked about some of the tracks in this album is it felt like a lot of there was a lot more of this offbeat melodies where it would be a bit off kilter, like it's hard, I don't have one off mine, but when I was listening to it, I could feel that he was trying to change up some of the timing signatures and the tone by like cutting in, doing offbeat notes, and maybe that's to do with the villain being like Kefka, which seems like a kind of a madman type persona.
Oh yeah, he's nuts, but I love him. Yeah, I think Uematsu definitely plays with time signatures and changing what you expect to hear through certain aspects of the game. I think with those themes that reappear here and there throughout different tracks, he takes songs to different levels, and he'll take the same notes and bring them down a key, bring them up, and he'll give the same notes a different feel, a different feeling completely.
Yeah.
And those three opening notes that we were just talking about, they reappear at various points in the game on different tracks, namely Catastrophe. So in that opening video, you hear like a bell chime, and then you hear three notes, and then when you hear the song Catastrophe, it comes back in these emotional sustains that really belt it out in a different way. The darkness and uncertainty from the beginning video is becoming a horrifying and sad reality. And with each second that passes in Catastrophe, dramatic and pained notes fill our ears. The world is groaning in pain from being ripped apart. Again, those horns are present saying, hi, the Empire's here. We're the cause of all this. It's just an elegant track with a lot of despair and foreboding behind it in the second half. It's one small example of him utilizing the same theme and giving it an almost completely different feel.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the last one I wanted to pick out has to do with that Empire, namely the Gestalt Empire, the track. It's just a really good Imperial theme, I think. It has the foreboding strings, the gong in the background, and then you get the rhythmic marching drums and trumpets to blast along this Imperial legacy. It has a really good Imperial March kind of tune to it.
He does a good job at making the Empire feel incredibly dangerous with this song. Well, you mentioned that marching beat to it, but he utilizes it in a way that's a little less, we're headed off to war. Yeah. It's more focused on, look at the atrocities we've committed.
It's a dread. It's not a direct action. It's a dread that is caused by this Empire.
Yeah, he does a stellar job at presenting the bad guy in this game.
Yeah.
The last tragic theme I wanted to go with, and I can't not mention it, is Rachel. This easily takes home the award for saddest song in the game. It's just a phenomenal track. The short story is that Rachel was the fiance of our old friend Locke from the first song we talked about, that heroic figure. She loved him dearly. He is a treasure hunter. And if Indiana Jones has taught us anything, ladies and gentlemen, it's that it's a dangerous gig. She joined him for one of his adventures, and a bridge ended up collapsing underneath her. She fell a short distance and fell into a coma from her injuries. When she regained consciousness to find Locke tending to her, she could not remember who he was. And so her father, having had enough, began blaming Locke for his daughter's condition. He throws Locke out of their lives, and to make matters worse, John, she even joins in, insisting that whoever you are, you're making my father angry, so just leave. So he is devastated by this. And we find this story out. It kind of unfolds a little bit later into the game. There's more to him than just the brave hero. And shortly after they throw him out of their lives, the Empire lays waste to their town and she's killed. There is a legend, however, that suggests people can be brought back to life with a unique treasure. Later on in the game, he finds it, rushes to her aid, and hopes to revive her, but let's just say things don't exactly work out as he's planned.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful scene and incredibly emotional. I'm not ashamed to admit I'm a softie, and this one gets to me. You know, when you're playing the game, this is probably the first time I found myself tearing up at a game.
Yeah.
You know, Final Fantasy IV came close, but this one sent me over the edge. It was one of those moments where I felt extreme sadness, and I felt for this character in a way that I had never really felt before, like for a video game character. So it really opened that door. And it's this stuff that really elevates this game, especially for the time. You spend a lot of time with Locke. He's not the main character. But there's another reason I also chose this song. And it's to showcase Uematsu's thematic expertise. Now, going all the way back to Locke's theme, you yourself had mentioned that midsection.
Mm-hmm.
The song itself is very heroic and adventurous, but that middle has a hint of his past inside of it. Uematsu uses descending notes in a kind of a medium tone in that midsection of the song, and it bridges first and third parts of the song.
Yeah.
Using that same descending pattern, Rachel's theme opens. The notes are much more sustained. They're played by a different instrument. It switched from strings to like this, I want to say, baleful oboe. And with the removal of that triplet marching beat on the snare drum, it becomes this incredibly sad song. The rest of her song has the same general melody as Locke's theme, just in a much more sorrowful, wailing tone. Rachel's theme, of course, you know, it's brought forth with love. Her and Locke's story is one of love and loss.
Mm-hmm.
And with her scene, and when you hear this song, he's finally able to say goodbye to her and kind of close this chapter of his life. So the way he used those two songs
to bring them together. That's
I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the story that you told sounds exceedingly tragic. And the song itself does go along with that. So it's a very sad song, although probably lost a bit on me because I didn't play through the game. Didn't have emotional, weight behind it. But yeah, the ability to not make it obvious, not make the link between Locke's theme and Rachel's theme so obvious that it's the same instrument or a couple measures worth of. It's just a couple notes played with a different instrument. That kind of tie them together, and also hides it within Locke's theme as if it is this dark past that he's kind of running away from, or he's had the time to maybe get a little bit of closure, a little bit further away from the tragedy, and it's kind of in his past, but then it gets brought back out in that Rachel theme song. I just really appreciated it because while this game in general does a really good job of fleshing out its characters, there are only a few that I can think of that are really just there for set decoration. This one felt a little bit more complete than some of the other stories that the game had to tell. And it just felt like such a moving way to represent one of your main characters. There's more to him than just the cliche hero. Mm-hmm. And as he's portrayed literally in the first scene that you see him in, he's rushing to the aid of some damsel, It's very, very cliche, very tropey, but there's a lot more to him than initially thought. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that's great.
Now, this review, John, would not be complete. Mm-hmm. And I apologize. I may not have given you a link that had this song in it, but I'll defer to you on that one.
Okay.
I have to mention the opera scene. Did you listen to anything that sounded like an opera?
No, I did. Well, maybe, but I did see when I was watching the kind of review of it that it was mentioned as a pretty groundbreaking kind of song in the SNES history.
It quite literally steals the show in the game. It's completely unexpected. It's this little side quest built into the main quest of the game. Incredibly unique and fun.
Mm-hmm.
You actually end up taking part in a play at the Opera House. I won't go into it, but another character, Celis, goes undercover and has to play a role in the show. And Uematsu took this opportunity to write a complete for the time, I guess.
Yeah.
16-minute suite. Complete with an orchestral solo that's sung using the synthesizer, of course, a waltz, and a thunderous battle theme that, to me, is criminally underused. This is the one time you get to hear it is during the play.
Yeah.
God damn, it's a 16-minute song, and he wrote it for this. The scenes of the opera really focus on a Maria character who Celis is playing. And I thought it was kind of cool. I wanted to mention it because this is the journey she goes through in the play kind of mirrors what is happening to her in real life in the game. So, her life is destroyed by war. She's trying to figure out her place in the world, and if not outright searching for love, finds it anyway. So you can't talk about Final Fantasy VI without mentioning the Opera House. Yeah. It's one of those things, even today.
That seems incredibly ambitious for the time, and the fact that he pulled it off and it is so memorable is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's such a fun piece, and you can't help but kind of smile at what's happening on screen, and the little synthesized voices are always a real fun time.
Nice.
I wanted to show you, I'm going to look it up here real quick, the final boss sprite.
Mm-hmm.
It's 4 screens tall. This was like their...
Oh, God.
And then that's before you actually get to the final boss, which is resting comfortably on top.
Yeah. That's insane. Someone's like, we're just going to go buck wild with this one.
Yeah.
It's like
that's on top of that yellow section.
Yeah.
And that's Kefka himself.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's technically one piece of artwork built for the game, drawn for the game. And they used one of Tetsuya Nomura's sketches to kind of bring that to life. And that was unbelievable.
That's crazy.
But yeah, man. So, final thoughts, John. What anything left to say? Anything you wanted to mention?
The soundtrack overall was really good. Obviously, we've gone through a couple of these now with Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy IV, and Secret of Mana. And it to be quite honest, sometimes it gets tough for me to parse them, in a way that is meaningful. But to some extent,
I understand.
This one seems to be the most maybe serious and grounded soundtrack of all of them. Secret of Mana is more mystical, and Chrono Trigger is a bit more wacky at times. Whereas this one is a lot more grounded in the story, and but overall it's a good listen, and you could definitely feel the themes that you kind of present, that you get through gameplay through some of the tracks. So yeah, it's a good listen, though it's probably not the style of soundtrack, even Apex soundtrack or this kind of chiptune style soundtrack would be the one I would go for, but that's just me generally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand it's not for everyone in terms of capabilities that it was written for or written with. I think they could only do so much at the time on the Super Nintendo, and I think for what he had to work with, it's as good as it could be. But yeah, I mean, I totally understand it's abrasive to some people just because they're synthesized instruments, samples of instruments. So, I mean, it's not for everyone. But just to kind of round everything out, I think Nobuo Uematsu overall, after his lengthy and storied career writing for video games, he really made a name for himself as one of the best composers in the business. And it started, I think, with Final Fantasy IV. That's when his recognition started really taking off. He wrote Theme of Love for Final Fantasy IV, and they began teaching it in Japanese schools.
Yeah.
That's just one element of him legitimizing video game music as a genuine songwriting venture.
Yeah.
It's not often, especially in the early 90s, people reference video games as to what you look for in songwriting technique, but it happened, and that's kind of cool. So for me, like the game itself, this album is complex, deep, and moving. It has just an abundance of character and charm, and really pushed those boundaries for what the SNES could do. This was the final game for the 16-bit era, and as I joked earlier, it felt like the company was shutting down, but this is that official wave goodbye to the two-dimensional RPG for Squaresoft.
Yeah.
And as we all know, they moved over to PlayStation and developed the most famous RPG of all time. I didn't say best.
Yeah, most famous.
For those of you listening, Final Fantasy VII, great game, but it ain't no Final Fantasy VI.
Is it your top 3, top 5?
Oh yeah. I would say it's top 3 Final Fantasies for sure. Yeah. But it's just sorry. 6 beats the shit out of 7. And Kefka gets to destroy the world, something no other bad guy has done. Yeah. So for me, this is Uematsu's, magnum opus. It manages to capture the themes of the game and the story a little bit better than his others.
Yeah.
And you can find his music everywhere. Just search his name, you'll find something. But do yourselves a favor and buy the game called Theatrhythm Curtain Call. It's a very weird title. Yeah. They just put it out last year. It's a rhythm game, but has a host of songs from every Final Fantasy and beyond, other Squaresoft titles. You'd not only be supporting the music, you'd be supporting a great game. It's a blast for if you just want a little rhythm game fun. It's a good time, and there are so many songs on that game. It's almost like you're buying all the game soundtracks. So, so go ahead and do that. But if you don't want to do that, Nobuo Uematsu is on iTunes and other places, so you can subscribe to iTunes Music or Apple Music and listen to him that way. So yeah, for me, this soundtrack gets a 10 out of 10 Kefka laughs.
I think for me, it's probably an 8 out of 10 chocobos riding through the plane. It was a good time.
Nice. Well, that is the show, ladies and gentlemen. And John, if you would like to say goodbye, please do so.
I'll see you all at the end of the world.
And happy birthday, Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, happy birthday, yay.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, Another X-Files podcast for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple. We did.
Never mind.
Try again.
Scratch that.
Check it out. Look it up.
John.
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, you like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say, we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.